From a very young age, before you even knew it, an idea was quietly planted inside you. The idea that you are not enough. You didn't choose to believe this. It was slowly impressed upon you, through looks, cutting words, and silent comparisons. We grow up in a world that conditions us to see ourselves as flawed, something broken that needs fixing, a mistake to be hidden, a shame to be carried. School, family, friends, and media. Each plays a part in constructing this invisible narrative, and little by little, you begin to believe that something is deeply wrong with simply being who you are. The feeling of inferiority is not natural. It is created. It is born from constant comparisons, impossible expectations, and moments of failure that are used not as lessons, but as proof of unworthiness. You were not born with self-hate. You were taught to hate yourself. And as long as you carry that belief as if it were your own, you remain imprisoned by a lie that wasn't yours to begin with, but that only you can now destroy. Today, we will expose that lie. We will tear down the curtain of illusions that made you feel small, incapable, and unworthy. We'll dive into Adler's insights and understand his bold critique of the inferiority complex. As long as you believe you're less than, the world will treat you that way. To Adler, the feeling of being not enough wasn't a personal defect. It was a universal experience, a natural part of being human. Every child, when confronted with the vastness of the world, feels small, helpless, and dependent. It is the tension between who we are and who we can become that fuels our inner fire. Families often plant these seeds without knowing. They compare siblings. They project their own disappointments. They say things like, "Why can't you be more like your sister? You never do anything right." Even their silence in the face of effort can scream failure. Over time, these messages create a toxic self-image. And schools? They reinforce it. In schools, comparison and standardization are the pillars of the system. Your worth is measured not by character, kindness, or courage, but by test scores, trophies, and rankings. Individuality is erased. Personal value becomes a number. And with every small failure, every minor success of someone else, you're reminded, you're not enough. The more someone feels inadequate, the more they avoid risks. They self-sabotage. They hide. And in doing so, they reinforce their own false belief that they're incapable. So before we move forward, ask yourself, what were you taught about yourself? What silent beliefs, planted in your young mind, still shape your choices and fears today? Because now that you understand how the inferiority complex was born, it's time to go deeper. If inferiority is planted in childhood, society is the fuel that keeps it burning, sometimes until it becomes an uncontrollable fire within. The truth is hard but simple. This world does not want your liberation. It thrives on your insecurity. From the start, you're placed in systems that constantly whisper, "Something is wrong with you." School is the first arena of comparison. You're measured from day one, by grades, tests, competitions. No space for uniqueness, just rulers, ranks, and scores. And every small success of others, every minor failure of your own, becomes proof. You're still not enough. But that was just the beginning. Society itself is built to exploit this insecurity. Economically, media, once meant to expand your awareness, control. It's a dynamic as subtle as it is cruel. We live in a culture where comparison has become the norm. You are constantly encouraged to measure yourself against others, against ideals. And social media magnifies this relentlessly. You're not just comparing bodies, lives, and achievements anymore. You're comparing pain, struggle, and even how you heal. In this world, nothing truly feels like it's yours. Everything becomes a performance, a curated image. Even relationships aren't spared. They often turn into silent agreements of mutual validation. You matter only if you fulfill expectations. You are loved only if you play your assigned role. Who you really are, with your doubts, flaws, and quiet struggles, is rarely accepted. Sometimes not even by yourself. Adler saw this clearly. He understood that while we are inherently social beings, we are also deeply vulnerable to social manipulation. When society starts valuing appearance over authenticity, success over sincerity, and surface-level happiness over genuine emotion, we are forced to live lives wearing masks, not to protect ourselves from others, but to shield ourselves from a society that punishes any sign of imperfection. So day after day, you are conditioned to believe you're not enough. Not accidentally, but systematically. Not because you are truly lacking, but because the system depends on that feeling of lack to survive. Now that you're beginning to see this mechanism, it's time to understand the radical shift that Alfred Adler proposed. Because overcoming inferiority, according to Adler, isn't about becoming better in the eyes of others. He didn't see humans as victims doomed by their circumstances. He believed in our ability to transcend our pain. To Adler, the feeling of inferiority wasn't just a curse, it was a hidden opportunity, a raw force that, if understood and harnessed, could become the engine of personal greatness. He introduced the idea of compensation, a powerful concept. Every perceived inadequacy fuels a desire to overcome. A weak child can grow into a strong adult. An insecure youth can become a charismatic leader. A rejected soul can build deeper human connections than those who have never suffered. But, and this is where most people fail, this transformation can only happen if the inferiority is faced directly. It must be acknowledged without shame and turned into fuel, not a chain. Adler also warned, most people avoid this pain. Instead of facing their wounds, they pursue false superiority, chasing status, approval, and external power to hide their internal emptiness. They don't heal their true inferiority. They try to mask the illusion they've built around themselves. As you hear these words, to walk the path of true transformation, one belief must be broken, that you are a defect that needs to be fixed. Because as long as you carry this belief, every attempt to grow becomes another act of self-hate. And that true power lies in embracing exactly who you are. You don't need fixing. You need understanding. You don't need to become a polished version of someone else's ideal. You need to awaken to the truth already inside you. Since childhood, you've been told, be better, do more, meet expectations. These weren't just suggestions. They were blows to your self-worth, delivered again and again. Eventually, you stopped asking, who am I? And started measuring yourself only by what you're not. Adler taught that a healthy human being isn't someone who erases all flaws. It's someone who integrates their imperfections and builds greatness from them. Who understands that vulnerability isn't shame. It's the foundation of real strength. There can be no authentic growth while you hate yourself. Change becomes possible only when rooted in self-respect and compassion, not rejection. You are not the failure they made you believe you are. You are the sum of your struggles, your resilience, the silent days you kept going when everything told you to stop. Every wound you carry holds the seed of your potential. But the cycle must be broken. Stop trying to become someone else. Stop waging war on your own existence. Only by accepting the full truth of who we are, both light and shadow, can we move toward genuine greatness. You don't need to become someone new. You need to unlearn the lie that says who you are will never be enough. And now that you've seen the scale of this transformation, it's time to take a more practical step. How do you build a self-esteem that doesn't rely on external approval or endless comparison? That's what we'll explore in the next part. If these words speak to something deep in you, Check out my free ebook Beyond the Shadow. It unpacks Jung's core ideas and gives you tools to better understand yourself. The link is in the pinned comment. Healing requires a radical reconstruction of your relationship with yourself and with the world, and it begins with brutal courage. Taking responsibility for your own life. You are not responsible for the scars you carry, but you are responsible for what you choose to do with them now. You didn't choose the pain, but choosing to remain trapped in it, that's a decision you make every day. Adler reminds us, as long as we blame others, the past, or fate, we remain powerless. But the moment you say, "The story I write from this day forward is mine," that's when true strength is born. Next, stop building your identity through comparison. The inferiority complex needs you to look sideways, to feel small, to wish you were someone else. Healing begins when you stop playing that game, when you realize there is no standard you must meet. Your mission is not to be better than others, it's to become whole within yourself. Adler's core principle was social connection. He believed that true healing from the inferiority complex doesn't happen in isolation. It happens through authentic relationships, but not for approval, not to feel important. Rather, to share a purpose. To live, in Adler's view, is to contribute, to participate, to feel useful and needed within the human community. When your life is driven by a purpose greater than self-affirmation, the grip of inferiority begins to fade, because the focus shifts from your wounded ego to the positive impact you can make in the world. Healing, then, becomes a practice of three powerful movements: taking full responsibility for your life, rejecting comparison as poison, pursuing a purpose beyond your own validation. But even these steps aren't enough, unless something deeper happens inside you. True transformation requires an inner rupture, a shedding of the identity you've outgrown. It demands courage. Courage to abandon the version of yourself you've been clinging to. Courage to face the terrifying silence that follows when those old chains fall away. Courage to rebuild your life on a solid, honest, unshakable foundation. And that courage is what we'll explore in the final part. Because this journey, it's just beginning. So get ready. It's time to confront a truth few are willing to accept. No one is coming to rescue you. No accomplishment, no amount of praise, no external validation will ever fill the void created by the belief that you are not enough. This battle is fought in the solitude of your own awareness, far from the spotlight, far from applause, and it is a battle only you can win. The inferiority complex was not born in you. It was taught to you. You learned to compare, to doubt, to diminish yourself by standards that were never meant for you in the first place. But what was learned can be unlearned. What was imposed can be rejected. The pain you carry is not proof of your inadequacy. It's proof that you survived a system designed to break you. Adler didn't just give us a theory. He gave us a map to liberation. But a map alone isn't enough. You must walk. You must face the discomfort. You must rebuild yourself, brick by brick, not to become someone else, but to return to the truth of who you've always been.